Friends, a small talk on US Chinese relationship. Today, that is 25th July, the US Foreign Deputy Secretary is visiting China to meet Chinese Foreign Minister. What is so special about today? 50 years back, July 1971, Henry Kissinger, the National Security Advisor to his president, visited China secretly. And this had the support of Chinese chairman of Chinese Communist Party, Mao Zedong, and naturally the US president. And before this meeting, you can imagine there must have been a long talk, underhand understanding between the two. Why China was forced to do so? As per the Chinese understanding, China regarded USSR a social imperialist country, and they had very bitter fight over this ideological issue. And also Mao Zedong wanted to open up the Chinese market, and USA was looking forward for this opportunity. As this, they claim, China would work as a NATO alliance or even a NATO member, because almost 1 million Soviet soldiers will be tied up along China-USSR border. And this gave, after the alliance, after their talk and everything had finalized, a post in Xinjiang to the CIA, from where it could spy against Iran, Middle East Asia, and even on the portion of Soviets. Well, that was the background, friends, I wanted to tell you. And what happened today? We will talk in brief, we will not go in details. Last week, present US President, along with UK, Canada, NATO, Japan, New Zealand, etc., they claimed that China is or was using cyber espionage, and that was a major threat to their economic as well as national security. US Department of Justice charged China that since 2011 till 18, they were trying to penetrate into the computers of dozens of US companies, government departments, even universities, etc. China naturally has refuted all these claims, says it's all bogus claims. And when USA sanctioned some of the Chinese nationals and companies, now China has also reciprocated by putting restrictions on many American nationals. This happens. There's nothing big about this. This is part of the diplomacy between any two countries. US-China relations are strained not only on trade disputes but Chinese military buildup, which USA feels threatened. Geographical regions like South Chinese Sea and Taiwan. Though American think tanks, politicians shout much on Hong Kong, what is happening there, in Xinjiang, in Tibet, that human rights are being violated. By the way, as far as the records of US human rights violations are concerned, world over is the worst as far as I am concerned. That includes even internal, against the black communities, against the outsiders, against the settlers. Settlers, not the Europeans, but from different countries. Now, friends, just to remind you, I had a talk on this while celebrating the centenary of Chinese Communist Party. She had said that we will not accept sanctimonious preaching from those who feel they have the right to talk against us. Well, that is also part of the thing. And 50 years since Sino-Soviet relation deteriorated and Chinese-American relation improved, and the then President Richard Nixon, whatever he did wrong or right, that also helped in disintegration of the USSR. To my mind, very little bit, but yes, it did. And then after its disintegration, 1991, the relation which were forced upon these two countries, if I say so, was no more required. And then after we had, before 1991, disintegration of the USSR, 1989, the Tiananmen Square chaos / suppression of the mass upsurge of hundreds and thousands of Chinese who wanted their freedom, and all taken together today, the Americans feel threatened. One example is they are withdrawing from or rather withdrawn almost from Afghanistan, withdrawing from even Syria and many other things, where Chinese are penetrating, not militarily but economically. So their threat is genuine. China is really advancing at a very fast pace. Then comes the Reagan era, that is 1981 to 89, and the so-called modern conservative. It's all bogus terminology, but well, he was not much in favor of continuation of this honeymoon. Nonetheless, he continued. And after his time, the relations now present last a decade or so, what we can see after the termination of Cold War and a new Cold War developing, things have taken a different shape. A professor of Arizona in history says that we had a tacit alliance with China. So nicely said. Even President George Bush at that time, almost close to the break of USSR, stopped US arms sales to China. Though China had developed technically and militarily quite a lot, it didn't need probably. But then that was the thing. By the way, incidentally, when the relation between two countries were at top, at the highest level, China was granted most favorable nation. If you remember, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Prime Minister of India, had written to USA that why are you giving this most favorable nation status to China, why not to us? Replace China with India. And USA, in a treacherous act, I would say, exposed this letter. Though I am sure the Sanghis and the BJP would not have been embarrassed. They are used to such rebuffs and humiliation. So it doesn't make difference. Yes, I was talking to the MFN. And in 2000, USA made China most favorable nation a permanent feature. Anyway, whatever is permanent today, tomorrow it cannot be permanent, may not remain permanent. But as of now, it continues. That means the taxes, the other restrictions and all that are limited, irrespective of few here and few there. And the Americans, especially the American liberals, those who are optimistic about, say, the Chinese economy opening a market and capitalism growing, the political system also would change. But for what? USA top leadership, USA's top capitalists are not interested in political opening in China or anywhere, Venezuela, anywhere in the world, their main interest is the public property of that country, the natural resources of that country, and the market. And if politically China opens up, there will be an outright plunder, like what happened after the break of USSR in its various countries. We have seen many of those countries which broke away from USSR. Ukraine is a very good example on this, how their billions worth wealth just evaporated. Even Brazil recently, after Bolsonaro took over, 80 odd billion dollar worth of wealth just shifted from Brazil to USA. Not for the USA people, but for the US capitalist class. Well, USA needs China for its huge market for cheap manufacturing, irrespective of how much it shouts, jump that Uyghur has got 1 million forced laborers. No, that is only for saying nothing else. And also China has become US second largest creditor. You can imagine how controlled American economy is there as far as China is concerned. Well, friends, to sum up the whole thing, I would quote what US feels, wants, or its foreign policy towards China is, or towards PRC, People's Republic of China, that it would be competitive when it should be, mark the word should be, collaborative when it can be, and adversarial when it must be. It doesn't depend merely on what America wants, America feels. That's idealism. The materialist condition depends also on what China and its ally want. Well, as far as the whole issue is concerned, it boils down to the need of the profit, need of the redistribution of the world market, need of the growth of the capital. And the growth of the capital wants that the international boundaries be demolished. We also want that. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. World is my family. That is a message from the old India. Even today we want, but on different terms and conditions. Where production is not for profit, where slavery is abolished, where there is no unemployment, and where there is no discrimination of any kind. It's not imagination, friends. Think about it. Thank you.